welcome to Capital Talk, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of Kenya and now more than ever. Now, all this week, if you've been watching Capital Talk, we've been profiling, highlighting, showcasing women politicians, women who've made an impact, women who have come into what I call the class of 2008 and are already making their presence felt. Like my guest today. She's a first-time nominated member of parliament. She also, in the late 90s, began this NGO called Cradle, an organization basically for human rights for children when it wasn't fashionable to talk about children. She's very adamant about children's rights, and her big thing is spare the rod. She feels corporal punishment in schools, especially right now during these strikes, should be spared. Others would argue you spare the rod and you spoil the child. We'll talk about that. Also, what's it like being in the class of 2008? My guest today, nominated member of parliament, Millie or Millicent?
No,
Odhiambo.
Millie.
She said so, Millie.
Millie Odhiambo Mabona.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the bench.
Yes.
Probably about the weather, but you know.
No, it's lovely actually.
It's not bad, huh?
No.
Okay, so, Washimiwa, these school strikes, I mean, we can talk about it until the cows come home, but it's good to talk because we need to find out what the genesis of this is. Your thoughts about what's going on. Isn't it total madness?
Well, it is total madness. I think there's something absolutely wrong going on in our schools, and I think there's something absolutely wrong going on with our kids where they can actually kill another child and feel no remorse. You would have expected that once kids hear that a child died in Upper Hill, that the strikes would stop. But instead, they've just spiraled and they're getting absolutely out of hand. So is there a problem? Yes, there is a problem. What is the genesis of this problem? I think that is the $1 million question. And for me, the reason I'm saying this is that, you know, Kenyans, we are very reactive. We are not proactive. You know, you saw recently with Kimunya, the moment we said, oh, Grand Regency is sold, then we said Kimunya must go, you know. And then the next thing we are hearing, Honorable Otieno Kajwang, we've not heard what the story is, whether it's right or wrong, Kajwang must go, you know. And we hear there's a thief around the corner, we don't know whether they've stolen or not, mob justice. I'm feeling called instant tea. I'm doing what? We want instant solutions, whether they are right or wrong. And my concern is that if you are seeing what we are doing right now with the children's thing, is we are running to very quick, easy answers. And one of the easiest answers that we think is a problem is corporal punishment. I don't think so.
And you don't think so because?
I don't think so because, one, if you look at the history of the strikes in this school, like 1991, we had the St. Kizido event where boys from a neighboring school went into a neighboring girls' school, raped the girls, and murdered 19 of them. And the headmaster of that school then said, you know, the boys, that it was unfortunate the girls died because the boys didn't actually mean to murder the girls. They only wanted to rape them. That's the mentality of a headmaster. Then two, if you look at the Changuli case, which was I think around 2001, where a whole dormitory was burned and kids were killed by their own fellow students. Guess what? The cane was not outlawed then. And yet we burnt each other, we killed each other, even Bombolulu, the cane was not outlawed then. Then guess what, Jeff? As a Credo, we did a research on the issue of corporal punishment. Even APCAN Kenya has done a research on corporal punishment. And even though it is outlawed in the books, it is alive, well, and kicking in most of the schools. There are very, very few schools that are outlawed corporal punishment. I'll give you an example of Lenana School that still practices corporal punishment. They went on strike. So what is the problem? It is not corporal punishment. Yeah. There's got to be a reason beyond this.
Let me ask
and for me, I think one of the bigger problems is that we don't listen to kids. We are still too autocratic. We are still trying to be the British soldiers where we gave command and everybody obeyed. But the society has evolved. In the past, if we wanted to talk politics, we'd go and hide in the toilet and hope that nobody is listening. So the greater society is evolving, and we are thinking the kids are going to stay with the caveman instincts. Apana.
It's changed.
Democracy, they want it in school as well.
Well, let me ask you this, though. In yours and my time, because we're about the same age, when we were in school, if I had done something really critical, if I had planned a strike, say, where I went to school, St. Mary's, which was unthinkable then, my mother would have dragged me to the school and caned me in front of the school just to embarrass me. And if that happened to me, I would never, ever even entertain the thought, of striking or wanting to strike. And probably the same with you, where you went to school. Psychologically, corporal punishment works, I think.
I beg to disagree. It depends on the psyche of the child. It worked for you, it didn't work for me. For me, actually, the reverse is, if, like we had corporal punishment in school. And if you were late, you'd be given corporal punishment for a variety of things. Now, unfortunately, I've never quite been an early riser, even now. So I never really got this mathematics correct. I was obedient, I was a nice kid, but I just never got the mathematics of keeping time correct in the morning. I keep it for the rest of the day, but so long as you don't ask me to go to school at 5. So if I was late, because you'd be expected in school by 7, and if I was late, would be beaten. So it really used to be stressful to me. And I'd struggle and make sure I go to school in time so that I'm not caned. But guess what, Jeff? The day I was late, I would rather feign illness. And I feigned illness enough times and miss classes so that I'm not caned. And I remember one day I caused drama. The whole school came to a standstill when I was running around with the teacher because I was to be caned. So at one point, the teacher sort of just gave up and they let off. And they said, obedient kid, let's talk to her. Millie, try coming to school early. I was made a prefect. And really, I would be horrified and think through the whole night about being caned.
So you just had a cane phobia?
I had a cane phobia because it is painful, in case you forgot. It is painful to be caned. So for me, I would actually urge, and again, I would want to speak. I'm a very committed Christian. And I'd want to go back to the Bible. Everybody says the Bible says spare the rod
and spoil the child. Yes.
I agree with the Bible. I never want to change the Bible. My understanding of spare the rod and spoil the child means if you even look at the example of people who were using the rod in the Bible, like Aaron, he used it to lead the Israelites. He didn't use it to cane the Israelites. That is one.
Okay.
Same Bible says, teach the child in the way he should go, and he'll never depart from it. My mother taught me in the way of Christianity, I've never departed from it. My mother taught me in the way of obedience, I've never departed from it. My mother taught me in the way of discipline, and she still teaches me today, and I don't depart from it. I listen because I am taught, not because she beat me up. My mama used the cane very, very sparingly. I don't even remember. I think my mama beat me once, and I sat the whole day, and she sat me down and explained to me, and I said, so why don't we just talk about it? Why do you have to beat me? Why don't we just talk about it? If I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
Okay, so Mweshimiwa, very valid points. Yes. But the problem still exists. And yes, you've mentioned the fact that society has evolved. These kids of today are not like us when we were young. Yes. What needs to be done now to nip this in the bud?
I think what we need to do, and Jeff, again, I am very, very fortunate to have had the best of two worlds. I went to a very shallow school, which I'm very happy I did. And I went to a very good school. When I went to Limuru Girls, it was one of the best schools, and I'm happy I did. And I'll tell you, in the shallow school I went to, they believed in the rod, though again I escaped it because I was a nice student. And kids learned to evade the rod. And they always had tricks up their sleeves, and they always did things to evade it. And they were generally a dishonest lot. That's the truth.
Right.
I went to Limuru because I was cultured in this system from my former school, where if you ran out of foolscaps, then you lied about it. So the first day in Limuru Girls, the teacher comes and says, whose foolscap has run out? And I said, mine, and I was the only hand up. And everybody looked at me like, where is this weirdo from? And it wasn't helping that you've come from a show school.
Right.
And what I'm telling you, is Limuru girls believed in a system. You made kids proud to be part of Limuru. You made them proud to be part of a system and a culture. A culture, we had a school song that told you in faith we go, backward never forward we go. I can sing it now. In Fide Vade, in faith we go, to date.
Okay.
And it taught you values, and it taught you to believe in yourself and believe in values. And I came out of Limuru girls believing in values. I didn't need...
Shower schools, none of this?
No, we learned how to evade the cane, period.
No school song?
No school song. Being thwacked every now and again, though I missed it. But in Limuru, that is one thing I love. It sounds so simple. We had a school council where we talked to the headmistress, we had the senior prefects, and we had some sort of a kamkunji with the head teachers. And we discussed. Strikes were unheard of. Strikes were unheard of in Limuru. My old school, they were thwarted twice. Why? Because we did not nurture a culture of speaking to students. We let students, the teachers had a top-down sort of approach in dealing with kids. Pretty primitive, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I mean, the society has evolved. We must talk to our children now. And let me ask you, Jeff. Now we are talking about the school strikes. In today's paper, I'm seeing that there is a school where there are 10, I don't know how many kids were pregnant. What has the cane got to do with it? There's a bigger problem, and it has nothing to do with the cane. Kids getting pregnant, is it because we are not caning them? Even if we cane them, we'll not stop them from going to have sex.
Absolutely.
We must talk to kids.
Yeah.
We can't be caning them.
The education system, I guess what you're trying to say, what you mean, the education system has completely changed.
Yes.
And the fact that in some schools, well, there is free secondary education, right? You get less and less teachers, more and more students in classrooms, in schools, and less attention to the students.
Exactly. And teachers are also frustrated. Their jobs is not fulfilling, so they do the barest minimum. Why? Because the same command we are dealing with kids is the same command we are dealing with our teachers. They've been screaming for the last so many years. We are being very poorly paid. They are overworked. Same teachers and students are being overworked. Teachers are doing tuition for kids. Recently, a friend of mine was actually, you'd be surprised how many parents approach us. And they're saying, Millie, now it's good you're in parliament. Please try and change this. Though the challenge is, I don't know how we're going to do this because from the views I'm getting. But the point is this. A friend of mine was telling me that her little niece, who is in kindergarten, she went to see her, and she said, excuse me now, I can't talk to you. I have homework. I said, excuse me? Homework at kindergarten? Why are kids doing homework? Yeah. Let kids play. Let them do hula hoop. I was actually telling, I play with my niece when she comes home, and we compete. She's in class 5. We do the hula hoop. She even broke mine yesterday. And we compete who does more. Why? Because that's what we did. They don't have time to play. We are raising a society where we are making kids adults, and then when they're supposed to be adults, they're now kids. Yeah. If you're lucky and you're rich and you become older, then you will drive the car at a speed of 200 kilometers per hour. That's being kiddish. If you don't have the car, you'll burn things. Why? Because you didn't have time to play when you're supposed to play. Let kids play. Why are you killing them with homework? If you ask me, I would ban all homework in primary schools. There is no point for homework.
That is wrong.
No, it is absolutely not in primary school. I can tell you, so help me God, no homework, and I passed. We didn't have homework in primary school.
Yeah.
No.
So you'd ban homework completely?
Absolutely.
But give them activities to
in
do.
High school, yes, let them do homework, because then responsibility increases. Or if you want to introduce homework, maybe upper primary a little. But the system we did 3 subjects. I don't know if you did CPE or...
Yes, I did CPE.
Yes, I did CPE. And CPE was simple. We the kind of thing we were being taught, it was limited. Yeah. Then you had more by the time you go to secondary school. But now, I had a niece that was telling me when she was in kindergarten, she knew all the countries in Africa. What for? Why should she know the countries in Africa at kindergarten? At kindergarten, she needs to know that my neighbor and friend is Kamau from the next door and we play hula hoop, period.
And my mother's phone number, just in case.
Exactly. That's what they need to know, and that I shouldn't talk to strangers, and they should play 7 stones. I don't see kids playing 7 stones. They are always on computers. Yeah. And for me, those are some of the things we should be targeting. You look at the things that each one of us is so proud because now we're feeling posh. My kids plays, I don't know, they call it PlayStation and God knows what, and we want to get the latest. They are so violent. I don't know if anybody ever spends time to watch. They are extremely violent, and we are culturing our kids into violent games. During April holidays, Jeff, you know what we used to do? We used to make these tiny little things. We were very innovative. And I would be Sheikha Mehta. My brother would be, what was the other guy? Joginder Singh. And we'd be running all over the estate competing.
Yes.
Joginder Singh, Sheikha Mehta, and blah. And if not, we would be making dolls with matope. Yeah. I mean, we didn't have money. I don't come from a rich family.
Yes.
So we didn't have money to buy dolls all the time. We'd get them once in a while. Maybe for your birthday once a year, but not all the time. We were creative. We made dolls out of matope. If we didn't have the clay.
Right.
The whatever. So let kids be kids.
Let kids be kids. I want to talk more about that. It's fascinating because you brought a completely new angle to this, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. And also I want to talk about your parliamentary colleagues. What do they think about all this? I know there's a lot of resistance, but let's talk about that. My guest today, what a fascinating week. Our women politicians, especially this class of 2008, they are young, they're smart, they're go-getters, and they call it like they see it. Just like my guest today, nominated Member of Parliament, Millie Odhiambo. Oh, you can only get this kind of stuff on Capital Talk only on the award-winning station K24. We are back in a moment. Welcome back to Capital Talk. My guest today, the very, very entertaining nominated Member of Parliament from ODM. She is one of 3. ODM kept to their promise of 50% representation, at least with the nominated MP. She's one of 3. Nominated Member of Parliament, Millie Odhiambo, and we're talking schools, we're talking kids, we're talking growing up, we're talking where we went wrong. So, Mheshimiwa, we've spared the rod, we've banned homework. What else do we do to get to the mind of that child?
Listen to them. And that's actually one of the things I've said. Listen to kids. Find a forum where kids can express themselves. But, if you listen, it sounds like I'm being pretty liberal, which I am. But on the other hand, and I don't have my own child, and some people have challenged me on that, but I bring up other people's kids. Even now, I have the responsibility of taking care of my nieces, like my sister lives elsewhere. I take care of my nieces. I'm the one who is responsible for how they go to school, how they come back, and discipline issues. And they know I am a disciplinarian to death. I just don't have to cane them. And I am proactive. I sit them down, you'd be shocked. Like I tell people about issues about sex. I say I call us, a spoon, and not, what do you call it again? Whatever.
Yeah, a spade a spade.
a spade, and not that thing, whatever it is. So what I do is I sit down my nieces and nephews and I talk to them.
Do they talk back?
Yes. We have like a conversation. And I say things that sometimes shock them. And there are some that when I think I'm not able to tell them, like direct, I'm feeling embarrassed, then I go to a forum because I do a lot of mentorship talks and I invite them. Like only last week, I was talking to a group of young girls and boys. So I called my young niece and nephew. And within that context, I sat down and I talked to these guys about everything, from how I met my husband and everything. And they said, wow, now we know. And I said, so ask me. So I find ways of introducing this topic in a way that then they can engage with me. And then they have issues that they can raise. And you'd be amazed the sort of issues kids raise when you open up and talk to them.
Okay, Mheshimiwa, do we need to do more of that? Because the parents are busy running around, right? Do we need to speak to those children more?
Yes, that is actually my point. That what we need to do is talk to children more. whether it is in school, whether it is at home, but much more at home than in school. But even in school, you see, if you actually look at the size of classes that we had before, they were manageable. So teachers would spend quality time with any student. But now you are one teacher, you want to look at like a class of 100. If you have one kid who looks deviant, you say, go to hell, I don't have time for you. Yeah? So you won't spend time to notice that this kid is actually not deviant. He's basically one of the best kids, just hyper. And you need to see how you channel the hyperactivity this kid has. But with 100 kids, which teacher has the time? They don't. So we must look at this free education policy. What is it doing to teachers? I went all over the country. I was in Tharaka, I was in Suba, I was in Coast, I was in Nairobi, in the slums. Every teacher is telling you the same thing. One, of course, corporal punishment is still there. So that's why I'm saying it's a non-issue. But two, that they are absolutely overwhelmed. They are doing too much. They have too many students, and we need more teachers. But other than that, we need teachers not training in counseling as a by the way. We need counselors who are trained counselors in schools, doing nothing other than counseling 24/7. Yeah.
Mheshimiwa, in Parliament, and I know it's your first time there, and obviously this class of 2008, very aggressive, very in your face, they're taking no prisoners, and they're doing a great job for the most part. Are you having fun, and can you drive the policies you want with your colleagues now?
Yes, hopefully. Of course, everybody in Parliament is very independent-minded. And before I actually came here, I was having a very lively debate with a lot of them. And there's like a whole half of them were saying, you must chopper these kids. And then there's a whole half of them were saying, absolutely not, this is primitive. You know, like my friend Honorable Charles Kilonzo said, absolutely primitive. Don't touch nobody's kid. This was done in the caveman's time. Now we are more, developed, and we shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. So because Parliament is people are very open-minded, people are intelligent, you have to talk with them so that they see your viewpoint. But I'm hoping that because of the same reasons that we are going to be able to push in a lot. We are going to change a lot, and I'm hoping that we can change the way people think about Parliament. Because all you know about us is you want a lot of money, and then you just ask for more, like Oliver Twist.
Okay, your women colleagues, is this a good group to be with, and are you optimistic that it can only get better, because you're only 21 right now?
Yeah, but we are 21 amazing women. I'm sure you've met quite a number of them. We have different, what I like about it is we have very different and diverse backgrounds, yet all of us are very strong. Whether they are nominated or elected, they are strong women, independent-minded, go-getters, and very reformist in their mind. So I'm really seeing that we are going to move forward.
Yeah. The school strikes. Obviously, like you said, despite the fact that unfortunately, tragically, a kid got killed, they don't seem to be stopping. What do we do now, at least in the short term, to end these strikes and then tackle the problem? What needs to be done?
I think we need to understand child psychology. And I've done a little on child psychology. I've done training on child psychology. And what people are forgetting as children are children. Even adults get into mob psychology. How much more for children? So what children are basically seeing, like I'm told that in one school, the girls were celebrating that they got a new birth, and the boys thought they were striking. So they said, to support the girls, they went on strike, only to discover the girls were actually celebrating getting a bus. What I'm saying is that there's a spiral effect now, that we've had Lenana has gone on strike, we've had this has gone on strike, so I actually think what the headmistress of St. George's did is very commendable. Preempt it. They will want to go on strike for any reason now.
Right.
Why? Because it's human nature. We like being copycats.
Yeah.
We've had this is on strike, and much more so kids. At adolescent, any child psychologist will tell you that a child at the level of adolescent thinks the world is the stage, and they are the only actors, and we are all watching. So they're acting and we are watching. That's an adolescent for you. And Form 3, Form 5, they're adolescents. So all you do is when you see a big group of adolescents who are likely to behave that way. If you ask me, we should do a preemptive thing. If you think your school, be very vigilant and alert. If you have an inkling that the school is about to go on strike, just close it. Or just close the schools. Send them, no, it's almost, I don't know if it's whatever. Yeah, send the schools. Let them come back when they're a bit more relaxed. And then, am I saying children should get away with it who have done the mistakes? Absolutely not. I'm a lawyer. And I know children, especially when the activities tend to be on the criminal, they must face the full force of the law. They will be taken to court. They will be charged. They will be tried. And the others need to know that what they are doing is not correct. But, and that's why we have the Children Act, for instance, which I don't even think still is sufficient in dealing with children in conflict with the law. The way I should deal with you, Jeff, when you've committed an offense is not the way I should be dealing with a child who is still really in their formative stages, who may have been influenced for whatever reason. Ask most of our MPs. Half of them were expelled from whichever schools they were. They are our leaders. And if we expel them and didn't give them an opportunity to continue, who would we have now? I mean, really? Half of them were expelled. I missed it by whiskers. But I didn't ban a school anyway.
And you weren't caned?
No.
All right, you spoke about child rights, Mheshimiwa, a moment ago. Since Cradle was formed, have child rights improved in this country?
Absolutely. Child rights has improved significantly. We are listening a little more to children. Of course, by the time the Cradle was formed, we didn't even have like a comprehensive law on children. Since then, we have the Children Act. Issues of sexual violence against children have been addressed, which, by the way, is very rampant in schools. And then issues of trafficking on children have come to the fore. Things we never wanted to talk about that were no-go zones, like sexual abuse, for instance, they are now in the public domain. We are now discussing them. And even today, I saw somewhere, I don't know if it has to do with homosexuality, but I saw in the papers that somebody is asking, what if your boy likes boys, And it's a question that as parents would rather hide and not deal with, but some parents are already confronting it and will deal with it.
But very few.
Yeah,
it's
but
still
very few.
Taboo, yes.
Yes, but it is here. Can you believe, Jeff, we run a program called Child Letter Link, which is a newsletter to primary schools. In poorer neighborhoods in Nairobi, the first issue we send out, we actually ask kids to write letters to us, and we place boxes in schools. The first letter we got, a kid asked us that they feel attracted to children of the same sex.
Wow.
This is Nairobi, yeah? So we are confronting big issues, and we have to find a way of talking to our children so that they understand and they are able to deal with those issues.
Gone are the days of sweeping things under the rug.
You can't. If you do that, we are going to have what we had earlier this year. You cannot sweep things under the carpet. I think if there's one thing we learned from the post-election violence is that we must deal with issues when they confront us. Let's not wait, because then it's a time bomb. Right now, I've just left a debate going on Mungiki in Parliament and other similar groups. And all the time we have been sweeping them under the carpet. This is the time to deal with them. When there's no crisis of Mungiki, when there's no crisis of Taliban, this is the time to deal with it.
Proactive, not reactive.
Not reactive.
Bottom line, you having fun right now, aren't you? You right place, right time?
Yes. I guess because, as I told you, I'm a Christian, and I think God's timing is always perfect. So I think, yes, I am in the right place at the right time. Even though when I went in, I was very reluctant initially to go into the 10th Parliament. I would have wanted to be in the 11th or the 9th, but God purposed that I be in the 10th Parliament. At such a time as this, I'm an Esther.
There you go. And you get to Parliament on time, don't you?
Yeah, most times. Not always, but most times. At least Parliament knows I don't like your 5 o'clock. So they don't do like a 5 o'clock on me.
Correct.
We get to Parliament by 9. So unless I have a prior engagement, I try to be there on time. I give quality contributions.
Excellent. Mheshimiwa, what a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks.
All the very best.
Asante.
Good luck.
Thanks.
You are guest today, wow, what a fascinating topic. Nominated Member of Parliament, Millie Odhiambo. She says, spare the rod, but that doesn't necessarily mean you will spoil the child. She says, bottom line, discipline. And most importantly, talk to your child. Children have evolved over the decades, and they're not like we were growing up. You need to talk to them because they have a lot to say. Oh, there's so much going on in these schools. We need to tackle this problem, and I think we are getting to the genesis of the issues. Oh, and you can only get that right here on Capital Talk only, on the award-winning station K24, where we are all Kenyan, all the time.